would you say if I told you that drones can tell us the past, the present, and potentially the future? It's rather exciting, isn't it? Here we have a platform technology that's able to fly over landscapes and record how things have formed, where battles have taken place, and what kind of stories that landscape holds. We have drones that can actually measure and monitor what's happening right now. And when you put that information into models, you can actually use that geospatial data to predict things like coastal erosion and flooding and even fire. So, drones and history. Who'd have thunk it? Well, the idea is we're able now to use drones to fly around landscapes, for example, in the UK, where there's been fields that have left behind from wars that took place hundreds of years ago. And archaeologists are still investigating those sites, trying to figure out where which army came from and who was killed where. And so all of the soil forensics, all of the different techniques that archaeologists use are very geospatial in nature. And so being able to get very high resolution information, much higher resolution than we'd normally get from manned aircraft or satellites, allows us to build 3D models of what that landscape looked like when those battles took place. Here in Australia, we have some amazing teams working around the country using digital technologies to record songs, to record culture, to allow it to be preserved in a digital format for the whole world to enjoy, as well as actually preserving that culture. Drones can be used to fly along what we have called song lines across the outback of Australia. We also have people telling stories of landscape and how the land was formed. And some of the most beautiful stories I've heard here in Australia are ones that tie back to the natural world. For me as a scientist, it really just is such a beautiful experience. So for me to have the idea that I could fly around that landscape and listen to the songs and listen to the stories of how Dreamtime and how Mother Nature worked together to form them, for me is a bit of a magical experience. But when it comes to also maybe looking to the future, geospatial data is only really as good as the resolution you can capture it at. We have this thing called ecological windows, and we also have this thing called historical windows. So if we were able to look at something before it was destroyed, we can understand what happened and why in a much better way. And so battlefields are one thing, and telling stories of culture is another. But looking at the idea of how the landform was actually created and how humans actually existed on it, these are the stories and the sciences that we need to understand as we face climate change, as we face a growing population, as we face water shortages or more fires and more floods. How can we build resilience and mitigate against climate change unless we really fully understand the planet Earth that we stand on? And so when you next go to a historical site, have a look and see. Do they offer you a virtual reality fly-through? Do you have an augmented reality point of view that you can look across that landscape? These things are coming. It's very exciting. I really like the idea of being in a virtual reality headset, walking through a field and watching an episode of my history happen around me. Where would you apply drones if you could record history? Where's your favourite historical site? And are they using drones or AR, VR or some kind of digital technology to tell you their stories yet? Get in touch and let us know. I look forward to hearing what's going on in your world.